Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Andronetalks Radio. We have a special guest, someone who is called Navy John, and he has a background in aviation, Navy aviation mechanics, and he is also known as AM3. And so he's done structural mechanics in the military, but has a lot of recall and remembrance of different things that have happened. So he's going to share that with us. So without further delay, here is John. Welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me today.
So why don't you start off by, we connected, we had a few discussions, and so let's go right in there and talk about, how this all started, like, your early childhood and your interest in, what's going on regarding extraterrestrials and recall of being a part of different types of things.
Well, I would imagine, go back to when I was pretty young. We moved out to the country from in town when I was I think I was 5 or 6 years old. So, we built a house out there on, out in the country, and, it had some land, there's farmland around there. So we had about a quarter-acre lot, half-acre lot. And I had a dog called Scrappy, he was a kind of a yellow lab, black lab mix, and I had him as a puppy, and he stayed outside in the backyard, which was fenced in, and I was sleeping one night. I don't know the time, but it was probably early morning or something, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was young then. So all of a sudden, the room was lit up. Well, the dog was barking at first.
Right.
So that woke me up. So I was laying in there, and I was, it was just me in the room. My other brothers, they were in the other rooms. So anyways, I woke up, and then, like I said, I don't know the age. I was, I don't think I was 10, but it's possible. And, the bright light lit up the room. So I'm like, a young child, young person. So I woke up and I'm looking around, and it's brighter than what, a light would be on really at night. And of course, slept with the door open. We always slept with the doors open, to the rooms. My parents' room was right across the hallway. It's those older houses, where they have a hallway. It's not a split entry or anything. And so, I'm looking, and I feel like something's not right. And all of a sudden I see this little gray entity that looks like, big head, black eyes, small mouth. I remember all that. And he's at the door. Like he came in from the outside, he just didn't zip in. And so I'm looking, and then I blinked, and he's right there next to my bed. I'm trying to scream, do something, and I'm like paralyzed. So
right.
I couldn't move or anything, nothing like that. And that's my first recollection of anything like that happening. That's what kind of strange things happen. I think that's probably the first time that I remember. And I don't remember being taken anywhere or anything like that. Then things kind of went back to normal. I don't even think I even mentioned it to my parents. And Then after that, I was always had a fear of sleeping, you know, kind of by myself. So,
Yeah.
you know, my parents knew that. And so, you know, they'd be kind of, you know, they thought I was kind of crazy. You're not crazy, but just a kid having nightmares or stuff like that. I don't know that I ever really slept that good at night after that, you know, as a child, you know, for a while. I was always really on high alert. You know, that's what I do remember. That's really the only time I remember being visited by these, you know, entities, ETs. That's when it started, you know, I guess. And I had heard from, you know, now this is jumping forward. I don't know if you want to jump forward on this while we were living in that house growing up. But my younger brothers, I had 2 younger brothers, and they told me later on in life, they were traveling from my house, our house, going towards town, and they seen a bright light up in the sky, and this is what they both recalled this. And it was really low, you know, it's like an aircraft, you know, whatever, UFO. And they said that everybody was pulled over off the road. And they pulled over off the road as well. You know, I guess maybe everybody did at the same time. I don't remember exactly what they were saying precisely. But they pulled over, and they thought that was really odd too, you know. And they're just kind of the people that just kind of like my father, you know, they just kind of shuffle it under. You know, they don't want to tell anybody about that because they think that people are going to think they're crazy, right?
Right.
So, you know, they didn't tell me about this till later on. And see, there's a 6-year gap between myself and my younger brother. So I want to say he told me that when I got after I got out of the Navy, I came back and lived there for a short time till, you know, I did something else, till I got on my own. But, you know, that was one of the stories, you know, that happened there. My older brother that has passed away, you know, 4 years back or something like that. Anyways, he would tell me stories that same thing, you know, that even when he moved to, you know, the city where he was going to college, stuff like that, he said that he had the same thing happen to him, light, you know, bright light, and he was living in an apartment complex. And he told me the same thing. And so he was aware of it as well. So that's almost like all 3 of us. Now, my mother seems like she's very intuitive on things. And she was a little off, you know. She was fine, my family said, until might have been around that time, you know, no, it was probably after that when I was visited by the ETs. I think it was after my youngest brother, which would be 9 years junior to me. When he was, after he was born, she kind of went a little aloof, you know, for a while. And she seen a bright light. This is what she told me one time, you know, that she was sleeping at night and a bright light came down, you know. She didn't say it lit up the room or anything like that. But after that, you know, she was, I don't know, you want to call it being messaged or something like that. You know, and she was into the Jehovah's Witnesses, very deep, you know, on her side of the family. So, you know, she didn't believe in any of these things like ETs or anything like that. That wasn't something that, you know, she was ever going to listen to about. So as far as she thought they were demonic, right? Demonic stuff. But she would, she'd be talking to people, you know, and it's like schizophrenic, but she's really not, she was never like that, you know. And she'd sometimes walk into her room and she'd just be having a conversation, like with somebody, like a relative or something. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Like a medium, like someone who sees beyond the veil. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was like, I don't know, just different things like that. It started there, and then like anytime it's almost like anytime there's something that's irritated me, or, you know, my wife and I are arguing, to say something like that, big argument, you know, she calls, like not immediately, but, you know, she'll call, is everything okay? You know, stuff like that. So I don't know, when her and her sister were the only children. Now, when they grew up, like I said, we spoke about before, this town, you know, where I'm from, in that state.
Yeah, well, why don't you say where you're from?
Oh, okay. I'm from Idaho. So this town where she's from, I've just heard of different stories, you know, and that's where my relatives, they were all kind of from there, you know, on her side of the family. Mm-hmm. But this is something we didn't speak about that I was going to tell, that came to my mind, you know, when we first talked and I was writing these things down. When her and my sister were young, now this would have been, I don't know, before 10 maybe or something, somewhere around those ages. There was a witch that she read tarot cards and different things like this. This is I'm not saying she's a witch, but this is what the was translated to me from my cousins. And so ever since then, they had something, maybe they opened a door or something like that. You know, they were kids playing around with that stuff. Well, my cousins told me that, you know, when they were born and everything like that. So I don't know if this, you know, was happening before the first child was born or whatever, but they called this friendly ghost Casper. And this Casper was always around, right? But as soon as they got into religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, this certain entity, ghost, turned on them. Was not happy about that, right? So I don't know what that means, but this kind of gives you an idea of what goes back and where it kind of started, you know. So I'm assuming that could have been part of it, you know, why my mother, you know, went that way, you know. I don't know, maybe she hid it pretty well until she got older, you know, but, or we just never noticed it. But anyways, a lot of strange things, you know. It's what my older brother, he was really into a lot of this stuff we're talking about, maybe even deeper, you know. And so he did some research on the place too, this town. And this town has always been small. There was a senator that came out of there. I don't remember what his name was. And I probably could do the research and find out who he was. But he had land there. I know he had a ranch there and stuff. Just kind of like a little ranching community, you know, kind of thing. But it's just kind of a different place driving through, you know. Everybody passes through these, you know, at that time, and I'm sure it's still like that. There's just a highway that goes through there, you know, and it's kind of just country driving kind of thing. But people would go to these resort areas, this McCall, Idaho, which is another strange place. But a lot of wealthy people have cabins there. They don't live there year round, most of them. It's a small amount of people that stay there, you know, in the winter and stuff like that, community, that are actually from there. But this highway goes through there. So everybody kind of comes through there that's coming down from my area that has cabins up there, or they want to go camping or what have you. So they drive through this little town, you know, but it's just a strange, I always get kind of weird vibes there, you know, just kind of a different place. People are really clannish, you know, really kind of keep to themselves kind of thing. But a lot of people do up in those small towns up there when you get up. That's like when you're just getting into the mountains, right? Mm-hmm. It's like as you just enter in there to the foothills of that before you get right into the mountains. But it's never grown. There's a lot of, my brother was saying that there's a lot of Masonic stuff that goes on there. He was even saying, you know, that there's blood sacrifices and stuff like that. Now, this is just coming from him. We didn't talk in depth on any of this stuff, you know. It's just, these are things I remember that he was telling me before I was even thinking about this stuff. But it just kind of triggers it when we talk about this stuff. But like I say, on her side of the family is very strange. I mean, I can remember my grandmother saying on her side, and this is on my mom's side, this guy, her brother, was like double jointed in his, this is how she explained it to me, double jointed in his hips to where he could, this is, you know, she might be exaggerating. She goes, oh, he could flip his legs around to where it looked like he was walking backwards.
Wow.
or something like that, which is strange. At the time, I'm thinking, oh, she's just telling stories, but that is something. And another one of her brothers that we were talking about before was this is over on the Oregon coast, because a lot of them moved over to the Oregon coast. Well, he had a wild hair, he just decided he was going to swim across the bay. So he swims across the bay, and his family, there's probably other things that happened as well, but after that, they decided they're going to put him in a mental asylum. So they put him in a mental asylum. I don't know how many years. I can remember being probably 4 or 5 years old, and because we were still living in town before we moved out to the country. And he was staying in the basement for a while, but he was always talking to somebody too, and I mean, he would tap on top of the roof of the car while we're driving. And I remember I was just like, as a small child, my dad's just like, oh, he's just messing around. And he'd be tapping on the top of the roof of the car and stuff. I just remember him being a little off, but he actually, I don't know how it happened, but anyways, he had a daughter, and he had a wife at one time too. And that was, I don't know if he was in the mental institute and then he was released, and maybe he had this relationship with this woman, and he got married. I'm not sure how all that went, because they never really talked much about it, because they didn't really want to talk about that kind of stuff, because the guy was in a mental institute. So, but anyways, I know when I was young like that, 4 years old, that he came and stayed with us for a little while, and I was too young to really remember all that stuff. But it gives you kind of an idea, and I believe my mom said that there's either 7 or 9 kids in that family, and that whole
Do you
side of
think
the family.
that the reason why they were that way is because they had some type of encounters?
I'm not sure. That's what I mean. I don't know if that's connected to all this stuff, that's just kind of giving you information, and
I mean, Idaho is very close to Nevada, and all of that activity. I think it's close enough that there's a variety of things. That you have the scientists, you have the Area 51 and 52, and all of that going on. So there's a lot of just. It's very possible that because of the proximity, that there is access. I'm not saying that people can't have these experiences elsewhere around the world, but I think there's a greater percentage that something like that could happen.
Yes, and Nevada is not far from the location where I grew up. I would say people would go down there to gamble because they could gamble in Nevada. And it was to the border, which I'm sure was probably, well, there's a couple different ways you could go. But you're talking, the border is, I would say 2 hours, maybe 2 hours from where I'm at. Driving, as the crow flies, probably much closer. We flew down there one time, me and a friend of mine. He had his pilot's license. So it was my birthday. I don't remember if it was my 21st birthday. I think it was. And I graduated high school with him, and we flew down there, and it didn't take long in a Cessna, I think we arrived about a little bit quicker than what the cars did. But we flew down there to this place. It's just out of nowhere, just right across the border, so people can go gamble. But I know it's pretty close to the Nevada. As far as Las Vegas, it's quite a ways from Las Vegas.
There's a lot of because I worked in the metaphysical kind of ghost hunting environment at one point, and there's just a lot of high strangeness, they call it, that happens over in Las Vegas. And recently I kept on saying I had a remembrance of the Taj Mahal casino, and everyone's saying, no, it doesn't exist. And I'm like, but it's in New Jersey. But I could have sworn there was one over in Las Vegas. And so I'm like, I was having visions of it and literally seeing this. And there's something going on over there. There's a lot of activity. There was recently a UFO sighting in one of the, apartment complexes, or, one of the campgrounds or something. And so, there's just so much activity over there. And from what it sounds like is they love these like remote areas where they can just sort of show up, and they obviously do something, and then you don't really talk to anyone about it because it's frowned upon. People are afraid to say anything. There's so many sightings, and there's so many people. I constantly get people contacting me saying that they saw or experienced something like this. Mm-hmm. And yet it's banned, in a way from our society.
And where I'm from, they're just kind of, growing up, it was just older people, they watched the news, back then there wasn't internet, there wasn't even cell phones. So people didn't, they had their mindset, and they kind of lived their own little lives. I mean, as children, we just had to be home by dark, right?
Right.
We played outside.
That was our generation. Yeah, just show up for dinner.
Yeah, and you just played. You played with your friends out there. You get off from the bus drops you off, and even though I lived in the country, a lot of the neighbors, they had, half-acre lots, 1-acre lots, whatever, and we were all friends. All the kids played together and everything, and it's not like now where your parents got to worry about you getting picked up by some weirdo, or trafficked or whatever. But it is very different. But there wasn't that worry, so we never watched much TV. I mean, of course, Star Trek. There's a few other shows everybody watched. And they always came on when you got home from school. Like somewhere shortly after that. And then I rode motorcycles and stuff like that. That was my therapy or whatever. I got into riding these dirt bikes, just get up, couldn't wait to get on there and go home and do that, and ride all evening or all afternoon, But yeah, it's
when
just
did you figure out time frame. When did you figure out that you were mechanical? Because you were brought into the Navy as a AM3, called it, and an aviation mechanic, structural mechanic.
I started out really early when I had my motorcycle. That's something my dad, he would always get mad at me because I would tear stuff apart on there and then put it back together.
I've heard of people like that, yes.
Yeah, and this is very young. He bought me my first motorcycle, let's see, what was I? Gosh, I want to say I was like maybe 7 years old, it was like a mini bike or something. And then I finally he bought me a brand new little Honda 50 dirt bike. And that was the big time there, and I would say I was probably maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, but, I was always been mechanically inclined like that, and then, when I wasn't like a gearhead, nothing like that. I mean, I had a normal life and stuff, but when I got out of high school, well, actually, when I was in high school, took the auto class. It's just, they're not mechanics, they make it sound like it's a mechanic. You're going to be a mechanic if you take this course. All you learn how to do is service cars, stuff like that. He was a Japanese teacher at my school, so I think he knew a little bit about it. So they go, okay, we're going to start this class. Who wants to do it? He wanted to do it. But anyways, he told me that it would never work. I bought this 1972 Chevelle. It didn't have a motor or transmission in it. And it was somebody that I knew at work. I was working since I was 16. I was bagging groceries at the Safeways. Anyways, I worked with this individual, and he told me, well, yeah, they've got this, $250. So I'm like, all right, they probably just wanted to get rid of it. And so I go, well, I'll give it a try, whatever. So anyways, I got that, and somehow come across this, I can't remember, somebody I worked with or a friend at school. He goes, hey, there's this Buick 430 Wildcat motor, which is like a real fast 427 Chevy, back in the day, big block. You probably don't know what that is. Anyways, it's just a powerful motor, performance motor. So anyways, it was rebuilt. It came with the transmission and everything. I think I paid $300 for it or something. The guy just wanted to get rid of it. So I'm like, okay, you know, I didn't think about, you know, it's not going to fit in there. You know, it's not going to bolt up. It's nothing's going to match up because it's not the same kind of car. It's not a Chevy. It's a Buick. So I tell the instructor, you know, the instructor, whatever, you know, teacher, I told him, yeah, I got this and this and that, you know, maybe you can help me with figuring out how I can get this in there. And he's like, oh, that'll never work. That will never work. It's different wiring. It's different, you know, all this stuff. So I just like, and I've always been persistent, you know, I don't really give up easy. So I'm like, well, all right, you know, so I was just kind of on my own on the whole thing. And so we put that motor in there and it would bolt up on one side, but not on the other side. So we chained it down to the frame so that, you know, we could get it to work. And the transmission, I think we got that to bolt up somehow, you know, we just jerry rigged it to get that to work. And then I had to get the wiring done. So my dad knew a pretty good mechanic. So took it over there. And I know he didn't want to do it, but he knew my dad and he was friends with him. So he had to figure out where all these wires went and stuff, you know, to get it to run. But that thing, we got it to run. And I mean, it was fast. I mean, it was, I looked it up later and this thing was like a performance motor that was back in the, I think it was a 1969 to 71 or something was what the motor was. But anyways, that thing, I had these wide tires on it, and I mean, it would just lay the rubber as far as I wanted to lay it, you know. It was fast. And so that just gives you an idea on the mechanical, you know. I mean, I didn't have to do much mechanical, you know. We just put that motor in there, but there was some doing to get it to work. But I was told it wouldn't work, and so that just made me want to do it even more, you know. That's just kind of how I am.
So you're kind of like a MacGyver type of guy, going in and making something happen and putting it together. If you had to, you'd be the type of guy that could, you know, if you have limited resources, you could still make something happen, which is.
I'll try. You know, I mean.
So we'll have you on the team if anything goes down. You know, like these islands, you know, people are in remote locations and nothing's working, and you're the man. You're the person that they go to.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I don't consider myself, my wife doesn't think I'm mechanically inclined at all. You know, she doesn't want me to work on nothing around here in the house. I don't know why.
Well, you know, sometimes relationships.
She can't believe I'm a mechanic.
Yeah, there's other reasons for that kind of thing when it comes to relationships. So we'll leave that one alone.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw it in there.
But apparently the military thought that you had something. So let's go into the military a little bit. And did you have any unusual experiences while you were in the military that were kind of noteworthy, that just didn't make any sense? Anything regarding paranormal or ET or any other type of experience?
Well, I wouldn't say ET, but, you know, well, I'll start out when I went into the boot camp. Well, I'll start out, I was supposed to go into the Air Force. I was in the delayed entry program for a year. You know, I was, you know, before I went in, you know, I wasn't actually in, but I had the slot for whatever I was going, you know, for the Air Force to go to boot camp. And it's kind of strange. I was at this place, like I was saying, it's like a resort place where all these rich people, you know, well-to-do people have cabins and stuff in this McCall, Idaho. So I'm up there. It's a bunch of kids there. Okay, you know, and I'm of drinking age. And people are drinking, you know, they got them in their cups, you know, you're young. So they got alcohol in there.
The red cups, the famous red cups.
And everything. Yeah. Well, the chief of police from my town is up there helping, right? And he knows who I am. And we're sitting in the park, not minding our own business. Well, he comes up to me and he goes, "What's in the cup?" And I go, just stuff to drink. And he picks it up, takes the cap off, smells it, and he goes, "That's alcohol." He goes, "That's an open container." So he goes out of his way, doesn't say, you know, of course, He gives me an open container ticket, you know. So what that did was that screwed me going, you know, everything happens for a reason, right?
Right.
So that screwed me out of going, you know, because I'm an honest person. So I told my recruiter what happened, you know, and I don't know how many months left I had before I was in a delayed entry. So anyways, that knocked me out of that. He goes, well, you got into trouble. And this chief of police ends up going into the FBI shortly, you know, I don't know how many years after that. But, you know, he wanted to get in the FBI, but he went after me for some reason. And I never had a problem with the guy ever, you know. So, but he, you know, it's a small town. He knows I was a good athlete. So I played sports, you know, and I was always really focused. You know, I was a very focused, like basketball, believe it or not. I mean, I'm only 5'9", and I was a point guard. But whenever they did free throws, everybody would say, there's Mr. Automatic, because I would always make my free throws. You know, it doesn't matter how much pressure was on or whatever. And I won games before, you know, when we were in district championship. I know I'm going a little off here, but I'm just kind of telling you how the focus
That's all right.
You know?
Yes.
So anyways, you know, got us into the state playoffs, you know, because I made a couple three-pointers way out there that, you know, they were surprised that I was able to do that. The pressure never really got to me. I guess I could handle that, you know what I mean? I was very, very much can control those kind of situations or whatever, or not control them, but I can better handle them. How's that? And staying on this topic real quick, they were always, my family was never treated right as far as, because my father started, I guess I should have started this in the beginning. When his mother passed away, he was 12 years old. He got shipped off to my great uncle, which he was in World War II. We spoke about that, in the Navy, lived in the country. And my dad was back in those days, it's just another worker on the farm, right? So he was basically used as a workhorse. So, you know, they knew that in this town, right? That he didn't come from money. So, you know, that's how that works around there. Power and money in this small town. And see, he never had it, but he was a good athlete. He did very well. He's had the record for the most home runs, you know, and all this stuff that he held until after I left high school. And, you know, they had more teams they played and all this stuff. So they had more of a chance, right, for home runs. But anyway, so we were never getting a fair shake. Now, when my older brother, he was shorter than me. He was 5'6", and he worked his ass off, you know, and everybody liked him. So they had to make him a starter, you know, in basketball as a point guard. But after that, they went to state champion and all that stuff, and he ended up going and playing college basketball at this junior college in Ontario, right across the river. Junior college.
I do believe that there are a lot of people that should have been in positions or whatever, and we were beaten out by, and I don't think I'm being paranoid. I mean, I know for a fact that they're getting beaten out by those that don't even belong in this reality, or some of these androids or cyborgs or corporations that are picking and choosing who should be where. And so I know that you were thinking you were just expressing something that maybe was frustrating in your life, but there are inequities that are happening, and it's a type of targeting that happens.
I was always focused, you know, on my goals or whatever I was, you know. I know we're getting off track, but I'm just kind of remembering some of these things, you know. But my younger brother.
Yeah, it's almost like the decks are set up for certain people and not, and you know, some people do the same exact thing, and one person does it and it's a really big deal, another person does it and it's not. And it does it, like, you know, I mean, some people say, well, that's life, you know, and so those that aren't on the right team, you know, whatever that is, then, you know, you are resigned to you know, who knows, whatever, you know, the status quo. And then there are those that maybe have like, you know, it's like you look at the presidents. There's no chance that you are going to be a president of the United States unless you have a lineage to the Queen, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll show every single one of them are related one way or another.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's interesting. It's, but like I said, you know, that just triggered something else. You know what I mean? Where they try to shut you down. You know what I mean?
They try to shut you down.
Negative, constantly. You know, it just seems like I was always negative. I was always having negativity going my way. You know, all the time, all the way.
And what did that do for you, though? What did that do? That negativity, did that turn that into a strength for you? So I think those challenges makes you more resilient, and also there's nothing to lose, right? So you just keep moving forward and talk about whatever it is that you feel like talking about, say what is you need to say, and, you know, pursue your own dreams in the way that you want.
It just lit a fire inside of me is what it did. And it's the same with my brothers. And my father, I think it started with him. You know, he was like determined that we're going to beat this thing. And he was always fair. There's a lot of Masons, you know, and
yeah, if you don't have a family in the Masons, absolutely, that has a persuasion, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then I started knowing about these, you know, it's like a wheel, right? So you got the Masons, you got the, what's that? Nazi organization. It's like it's a wheel with, you know, like they got the Lions Club, they got all these different things. Well, up there in that McCall, there's this place, there's this group, and I've heard about this later on. This was when I was going up there, and that makes sense too. You know, they're really highly Masonic, and the Rotary Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say Rotary. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I went up there and we decided we were going up there. They had the ice carnival where they carve these ice. They always have something going on there, and they're making money, right? The locals around there. And so we went up there, and my friend was driving, you know, and I grew up with him or whatever. His family is like my family. We went up there with another friend, and we're drinking and everything, you know, and we get up there, and there's a Rotary Club hot dog stand sitting there. And for whatever reason, you know, I got out of the car, and I don't know what we were talking about anyways, you know, and so I just kind of kicked it, didn't do nothing to it, right? Well, there's a cop nearby there, and my friends seen him because they arrested me right away, and they pulled this thing apart, right? This hot dog stand, and they take pictures of it, like they're framing me. And this is like when I was this is before I want to say before I went in the military, I think. I don't remember the exact time frame, after high school. You know, I'm of age to drink, but I was able to drink when I was 19 because that's, you know, that's when they passed the law. I was grandfathered in. But anyways, that was the oddest thing. They couldn't believe it, and they told the other officers that when they took me in, you know, that. So anyways, I ended up having to go to court on that. They released me and everything, but I had to go to court on that. So I drive all the way up to there, you know, and talk to them or whatever. And it's just a weird thing. And they kind of shuffled it under the carpet, but I had to pay for a new hot dog stand for these guys, right? That I didn't even damage, right? But that gives you an idea on how that place operates. But I remember to this day, it was the Rotary Club, you know. And that's just another odd thing, you know. But
yeah, and I'm sure it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it just, you know.
They're also involved with the military too. I mean, they make decisions. They have persuasions in so many different areas that people don't realize. And so either you play with them, work with them, help them hide, carry out their agendas, or you are trying to be an average citizen, and then they give you a ceiling of accomplishments or achievements. And
that's another thing that it came to mind when we talked before is it's just real quick, but this was an odd thing. Okay, I'm going to work, which I always work second shift for whatever reason. I mean, I just was always on second shift. So I'm going over, go across the river, you know, into Oregon. It's where all the food places are because there's no sales tax. So everybody shops over there, Walmart's over there, everything. So anyways, I go over there and I got my hamburger from the Burger King there, you know, and I'm sitting just by myself, you know, in the parking lot, the window down, eating my hamburger before I go to work. This lady pulls up to me with Washington plates, and she's like, got these black weird eyes. I mean, just I remember that. And she goes, out of the blue, she goes, "Hi, how's it going? Is there devil worshippers around here?" Some kind of weird stuff like that. Out of the blue, just odd. And I go, "Well, if there is, I'm not aware of it." You know? And it was just weird like that. I don't remember what else she talked about, but she had these weird piercing eyes, you know, and that was odd. And then something a little close to that was my neighbor lived next to me. This is when my wife and I were married, so that's within 18 years, before I moved to Colorado. And he was in the Navy as well. He was a cryptologist. And what that is they decipher codes and, you know, encrypting things, that kind of thing. Pretty high clearance. So we became friends because I sold him the house while I was selling real estate. So we became friends. He was stationed in Hawaii and he came over on his shore duty. He was going to be a recruiter for his shore duty. And so shore duty is, maybe people don't know what that is. Sea duty is you're on the ship. You can go to sea at any time. You be in a squadron and go to sea. Say it's 4 years. Shore duty is where you're not going to be going on the ship or anything like that. It's shore duty for 2-3 years, whatever, X amount of time. Anyways, so we're talking and whatnot. And he's like, "I got to get my 10-year renewed for the secret." He didn't say what clearance it was, but it's over secret. I don't know what that is. It's high up. So anyways, he goes, "The lady's going to come contact you. She just wants to talk to you." Well, she's an FBI agent, and she wants to come to my house. And I'm like, "I'm not comfortable with that. You know, now you can go down to the office and I'll speak with you down there, but I'm not going to speak with you at my house." You know, so she's like, "Okay." So she comes down there and she's got these weird piercing eyes and everything too, you know, like she's reading your mind. And so she's asking me these questions about this guy, of course, but it looks like she's more questioning me, you know, what kind of person I am, you know, and whatever. So I'm answering her basic questions and whatever, you know, I trust him with confidential, you know, clearance, you know, for, not top secret, I can't remember what she said. Anyways, secret stuff. And I go, "Yeah, I do. I think he's fine with that," or whatever, you know. And so I leave there and then I go to work. So she's obviously tailing me for a period of days because I see her and she wants to make sure that I know that I see her. Across the river on the Oregon side, I'm kind of a creature of habit. You know, she knows that. She's probably been watching me for a while. Before I go to work, I go over to get my hamburger, right? I'm single, fast food. I'm at the stoplight, and she's right here in this intersection. It's a 4-way, and she's turning this way to go to Idaho. I'm going across there, going to the food place. And I'm the first car on this, you know, where she's turning and going this way, you know, to come back to where the backside of my car is, you know, back around this way. Well, she's looking at me, stares at me, and we have eye contact, and I'm watching her as she's going by, and I'm just like, I got some really weird vibes. Like she's watching me, she's not watching me.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Is that odd? Yep. I think it's odd. And this was later on, less than a week later, but okay, she's out of the city, Boise, which she doesn't have any reason to be down there. This is that's an hour away, hour and 15 minutes away. What is she doing down there? You know, anyways, that was an odd thing. one more odd things. Anyways, we
Yeah.
get back on track.
This was you were in the military and you had information maybe, or was there anything that you think that she could have been looking for?
That was after, I was in the military, of course. That was, I'm married. That was 16, 17 years ago. And he was into the knowing also. So we would talk about things, and then he would research things. And we were always in my backyard on the patio. So maybe they were watching him. Maybe they were, I don't know, maybe listening to his phone, maybe, like some kind of microphone kind of thing. I don't know. At any rate, we would talk about this NSA that I told you about before, this NSA guy, and he was intrigued about that area that I was telling you about, Area 51, or the Red Dawn. That looks like, it looks like Red Dawn, but it's up in the mountains in Oregon, where this NSA guy that retired, where he lived. And so I would talk to him about this interesting, it's an interesting thing and it's a weird place, and he goes, well, I'm going to do some research on it. So I don't know what kind of research he does. I don't know what he's, just on the internet or what. He never went into that. But he gets back to me and he goes, I did the research on those people living up in there, and there's a lot of mercenaries from Vietnam and different entities like that, like military, government kind of things.
So if we had a true Red Dawn, then they'd be surprised to find all the mercenaries that were there.
Well,
to defend
maybe something we don't, because like we spoke before, there's no major city. You got to go from there. I would say, Portland, Oregon is the closest one to there. You'd have to pull it up on a map. This was Sumter, Oregon. And you take that, and I know from there to like Boise, Idaho is going to be, that's an hour from that. I would say 2.5 hours from Boise. And I would say it's probably close to that, or 3.5 hours to Portland. So he wasn't around any major city. And there's a freshwater lake there. They get everything they want. There's elk and deer all over the place there. They run around all the time when I went up there to visit my friend. But we had talked about stuff like that. So I don't know if she was maybe, knowing that we know about things or whatever. But see, he ended up, after he left there, he went to sea duty. He went to Fallon, Nevada, I believe is where he went. Because we were in contact, emails. And so he went from being an E6 to an E7, and then I'm still got his email and stuff, and he became an E8, before he retired, so that's pretty high up. But he didn't seem to be like a Kabbalist kind of thing. I don't think he was involved in any of that. He knew a lot about stuff, and he says there's a lot of people on the boats, on the ships, that are very aware of this stuff going on, and they read these things, books and stuff. Because you got a lot of time, on your hands on the ship where he's at. He's up in there where the controlling area of the ship is. So he probably read a lot. But it's just another odd story, It goes on and on,
Yeah. Well, you were actually you were in the military and you went overseas, right, in one of the wars.
Yeah, the Persian Gulf War. I'm not actually in it, but we were on our way over there when it kind of kicked off and everything, and it takes us 6 weeks to get over there from San Diego. So, by the time we got over there, what we do is we leave another ship that is, whatever you want to call it, sister ship, whatever it is, you'll be on a 6-month deployment. So it takes 6 weeks over, you're in 3 months, and then you come out six weeks, unless they extend you for some whatever reason, wartime, whatever, they could do that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, by the time we get over there, it's, Desert Storm's pretty much, it didn't last long. So it's pretty much, I think it was over by the time I got there. And so it's just smoky. There's, it looked like dusk, pretty much all day long and everything, But anyway, so we go into there, and there's an individual that I knew, I got acquainted with, even before then, before I went on this detachment. It's only one helicopter that goes out on the smaller ships. So you go out with a small handful of people from the squadron. So you got a junior and a senior with each rating that you have. Like I'm an AM, so there'd be like an E5, I'm an E3, whatever, kind of like that. So I'm the junior guy. And then you're learning to be the senior guy. So anyways, we worked on our rating. Anyways, so he was doing his thing, and we were lifting weights together and everything, and he was a different individual as well. He supposedly was this is a story he got from me, that he gave me. He was a running back or a fullback, one of the two, for some town or some city in Arizona, Phoenix. And he had a full ride scholarship as a running back to ASU. And the story I got, he was senior year, I guess, blew his knee out, hurt his knee, whatever it was. I don't remember if he had surgery or not. I don't think he told me. And so somehow he got in the Navy, which is kind of odd if you had an injury. So maybe he didn't blow it out. Maybe he just hurt it. And I think it was his knee. It could have been his shoulder, but if I remember right, it was his knee. And so maybe it healed up after that, and it was too late. He didn't get his full ride. You know, something happened like that. So he went in the Navy. That's why he went in. So anyways, I got acquainted with him, and we became friends. And he was a really big guy. He looked like he's 220 pounds, 5'9". I mean, V-shaped, just built really strong. So I was lifting weights with him. I'm always chasing him, you know, trying to, keep up with him. That's just how I am, you know, and just kind of focused. And, he was benching 340 or something like that. And I was able to bench 305, and he couldn't believe that I was 165 pounds at that time. So I'm benching 305. I mean, max, not reps, just one time. Right. And he couldn't believe that I was even doing that. But I mean, he was benching 340. He was, he's all natural. And so, anyways, we go on the cruise, and so we're working out together and everything on the cruise, going over there, long cruise, going to the Gulf. And so, for whatever reason, they picked us. If I remember right, he was with me. I'm pretty sure. And I got fragments of that. I don't remember the whole thing. And we're supposed to go over to the supply ship, not the supply ship, the flat top, which is a helicopter carrier. Kind of, they have a lot of supplies on there. And we had a helicopter on our ship, so they have stuff that we needed. So we had to go over there. And I don't even remember how we got there. I don't remember if they flew us over there on the helicopter. I kind of think so. I don't remember that. And I just remember being there, right? So I'm there, and I'm pretty sure he was with me. I'm pretty sure we both went together. And so we're on the ship, and we're picking up the supplies that we need. We had to get them back, so it might have been the helicopter dropped us off and then picked us back up. I don't remember. And so we got the supplies we needed. We ate there, I remember, they cut us into the front of the line, and some people were a little irritated because they got to wait in line for their food, But anyway, so we go through there, we get that done. And, it wasn't that long after that. He was telling me there was witches on the ship. He could see these things, is what he told me. He's a very religious person. His stepfather was a pastor. It was of a pretty big church, from what I understand, over in Phoenix, Arizona. But we would have conversations that were just not like normal people would probably have, like he trusted me, and he seemed pretty honest about the witches on the ship. They would confront him. I don't know if that happened on that flat top. I don't know if that was on there. It could have been both, on the ship, both ships, but he said there's witches on there, and they confront me because he believed to be a very religious person, a very, whatever you want to call it, holy person. And they know that, they could feel that, sense that. And then when we got off that cruise, I just remember him for a while, but then it just kind of, I don't know if it's just I went to a different detachment or whatever happened, because you disband when you go back, when you get back from your cruise, and then you might get on another one or whatever later date. So anyways, he was telling me that he was renting an apartment with this I don't know who the guy is, somebody he knew maybe or something like that, or maybe an ad in the paper, whatever it was. And so he became this roommate of this person. And he said there's like little, I think he said demons or something, running around inside this apartment, and hiding from him and stuff. So maybe he just said demons because he knows I wouldn't really understand anything other than that, the way he's trying to explain it to me. But, he just said these little, they're 3 feet tall, 2 feet tall, whatever they were. He didn't really describe them, but he said they're in there, and he goes, I got to get out of this apartment. He goes, I prayed and I've tried to get rid of them or whatever. Maybe he said he's going to do that or whatever he had to do, but he was going to oust them out of there, whatever. And it was later on, that my girlfriend at the time, we went over there because I was going to introduce him to him, and it was like nobody was living there. I mean, almost. I knocked on the door, there's no answer or nothing. He was a busy person. It's possible he wasn't there. I just got the feeling like there's nobody even in here, living here, And it's like, I don't remember if I was still in contact with him right after that or not, but it just kind of weird. It just kind of dropped off, and I don't even remember even being around him. And he came in after me in the Navy there in that squadron. So I don't know how that was, but it's just kind of an odd thing. That situation overseas.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You talked about how there was a witch around you when you were young, and then you were on the ship, and then there were these witches, and it's probably the best way to describe them, like not literal witches, but maybe some kind of entities or I don't know, shape-shifting as witches, or some of it doesn't make any sense, but it could be, sometimes when you're, maybe they had to define a person that was a card reader, and so without, maybe it could be a gypsy or a witch or a psychic, whatever word that, sometimes they're interchangeable. There are people that are see themselves as witches or Wiccans, they call them. So there's that. But on the ship, it could have been like a haunting of negative spirits. And in military situations, sometimes the nation that's being attacked, there may be people that are trying to conjure up something to curse those people that are harming them, coming from another place. And for that to be on a military ship completely makes sense to me. It was a type of haunting.
Well, that's like I say, witch, right? Over to when my mother and my aunt, her sister, was young. I don't know that they were bad. They just said witch. This is what my cousin said. So
is that with the lack of words, he had to define
that's
the
way they understand. Yeah, and especially when they're indoctrinated into this Jehovah's Witness.
Just any type of biblical or Christian or some of these other groups would refer. There's always this contrast of good and bad. Black and white. Everything is a contrast. So it's severe in either way, and there's actually gradations of it. So
it's just interesting. And like I say, I'm kind of rambling, but these things are just popping in my head, as we're speaking. It's stuff that I never thought about before. But as we go on, if you want to do the, when I went on the Leo ops, but actually before that, some person hurt their. Supposedly, it's over in the Gulf. This is before I was getting out. Well, I'm jumping ahead. That's the last thing that I did right before I got out. But okay, when I came back, then I all of a sudden they told me, hey, we're going to have you on this detachment 7, I think, or 9. I can't remember what it was. 7 was the first one. So I go on this detachment, and it's a fast frigate, which is a small ship, and it's about to be decommissioned. And it was the USS Reasoner. I still remember the name of it. And so they put us on this detachment. It's Leo Ops. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember exactly what that means. I could look it up, but I think it's legal enforcement operation. I don't know, something like that. But anyways, they were looking for drug runners, and busting drug dealers, stuff like that. They're trying to transport stuff. And our helicopter was attached to the ship, and that was working with the Coast Guard. Now, I didn't know all this stuff because they don't tell you this stuff until you're actually on the ship. So they wouldn't tell us where we're going. And they said, you're kind of on a 24-hour notice or something like that, if I remember right. You have to be on the ship, because, we're waiting for things to get into place, whatever, whatever transpires, right, before they go out there. So we get on the ship and we're going, going out of the bay and everything. Nobody knows where we're going, and we're just like, wow, this is kind of weird. So nobody's talking about anything. And then it's like 2 days, it's like 2 to 3 days, I can't remember exactly, that we're out there out at sea. Now, it felt like big swells, and most of us that have been overseas know that seems like around Hawaii, but I haven't been down to South America anywhere down that way. So I don't know how big their swells are there. Swells meaning the water, how it goes.
Yeah.
Some people may not know that, but at any rate, you can kind of tell when you're in the, if you've been out for a while, different seas. But anyway, anyways, that's what we were talking, because you're bored on the ship, you're just talking. People talk too much. And so there's big swells. 2 days, 3 days later, okay, now we're doing, the captain of the ship, commander of the ship, gets on the intercom and says, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this operation. Nobody's allowed outside the ship skin, right? That means stay inside. Nobody out there unless you're, unless you're cleared or whatever it is. I don't know. So anyways, I volunteered for chalk and chain, because that's when if you have to, when the helicopter's out there on the deck, they're chain them to the deck, and then the chocks keep the wheels from rolling. So I volunteered for that, so that you can take these, we just loosen them up when they give us the signal, the plane captain, they call it some LSE or something on the ship. And he'll say, okay, they give us the signal, go take the chocks and the chains out. So we run in there, It was me and another person, and I don't remember who the other person is. Still don't remember. It might have been the ship's company. So I went out there, and we do that, whatever. And helicopter takes off. I'm looking over there, and you can see a barge way out there, but I don't know. I'm not good with the distance, out there at sea. I don't know how far it was. Anyway, so my job was, when this helicopter goes, picks up, the product, whatever you want to call it, what we're bringing back to the ship, evidence, I guess, bring it back, set the pallet down. I didn't know it was going to be a pallet at the time, but they bring it back, drop it off, and then they go back over. So I'm just, in case there's emergency flight quarters or whatever, you know what I mean, kind of handling things out there. For whatever reason, they said I could do that. I don't know what. I don't even remember how many people volunteered. I don't think anybody, because they were scared probably or something. I just was never scared of that stuff. I found it interesting. So anyways, they go over and bring the first pallet over. They set it down. It's just like what you see on Miami Vice or whatever, there's a pallet full of burlap sacks, the products wrapped in burlap sacks. And there's 20 pallets, if I remember right, between 20 and 22 pallets. I want to say 22, but I don't want to exaggerate. Something like that, a lot of cocaine. And so, we had to wheel it in there into the hangar, which is right there, by the flight deck there. And so the Coast Guard guys, is what I'm assuming, I think that's what it was, and they would wheel it from there and take possession of it and put it in the back of the hangar in this room, in a storage room. So they did all that, and then when they brought the people that they busted, when they came on, I mean, these DEA agents were on there. They looked like just something out of Miami Vice, kind of thing. And then these other guys, I couldn't really say where they were from, and they were handcuffed and stuff. I think they handcuffed everybody just because they're trying to protect these DEA guys too, agents. But I just felt like, these guys were the DEA agents, There was a difference, the way they looked, kind of, a little bit. Anyway, the Coast Guard and everything was on there. We get debriefed on the way back, and of course, nobody's talking about where we're at. Never heard anything about that. But I do know that at the beginning of this whole detachment, I do remember Guatemala Something like that is what originally the detachment was for. They told us we were going there, but that doesn't mean that's right. You know, they could be lying to us.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
At any rate, so we're going back, and we get debriefed by the commanding officer, and he tells us that we're not to talk about this, you know, anything that happened here, because there's people's lives are at risk, these DEA agents and stuff like that, and their families, you know, the pilots, everybody, you know, involved in this. So you're not to talk about any of this, which is kind of odd because I never talked about it for probably 15 years, you know, and then just one day I just thought about talking about it, you know what I mean? Something triggered it or whatever, but I never did. I never told my family members, nothing, you know, never told anybody. In fact, I didn't even tell that girlfriend at the time. I didn't tell her nothing about it, you know. It was just that secret, you know. I mean, they made that impact on me, however, or it was some kind of mind control. I don't know what it was. But none of us talked about it. You know, we didn't go around slaughtering. What's that?
Do you know why you were selected for this?
I have no idea. It's just I didn't volunteer for any of this stuff. I got back from the cruise.
See, so just to go back into the timeline, here you are. You're in Desert Storm. Desert Storm is resolved because it was quick. Was it Schwarzkopf, right? Was talking about,
Yes.
you know, he pretty much went in there, took care of whatever they were doing, and then it ended. And so here you are overseas, and they bring you into this this other status relating to the cocaine, right? Which, yeah, and were other people from your group brought over as well, or was it just you?
Think back on it, I don't think so. I don't remember any of the people from that cruise, on that cruise I was on. I don't remember any of those. Why they picked me, I have no idea. I didn't have any choice in the matter, you know. They just tell you and you go, you know, you have to come up with a real good excuse to get out of that, break your arm or something, you know what I mean? But that goes into this next, the next thing is, you know, right before I got out, there's, they're asking the squadron, you know, hey, somebody hurt their knee over there, which is probably BS, you know. Guy just wants to go back, right? He's homesick, he doesn't want to be on that detachment. So they're in the Gulf and they're getting ready to come back. So he has about 6 weeks left on the detachment. So I volunteered because, you know, I wasn't getting along, you know, with my ex-girlfriend at the time, whatever, you know, that one we talked about. And I just wanted to just get away from the squadron and all that stuff. And they were supposed to go to Australia. So I hadn't been to Australia. I thought that'd be kind of cool. All I gotta do is ride the ship back. That's where you see all the ports, so in and out. So I was like, well, that'd be great. Okay, I'll volunteer. So they're happy with me, of course, right? They're like, oh, wow, that's great. Okay, man, we appreciate it. We're gonna put you on this plane. We're gonna fly you over there, and then you're gonna, you know, it's gonna be real good. They're going to Australia and all this stuff, you know. So I get there, you know, and they're getting ready to head out of the Gulf, so that's good. Not there very long. I don't know if I flew into Bahrain, one of those. I don't even remember where. Anyways, the squadron guys picked me up, and I knew some of the guys on the squadron. Anyways, I've always got along with people pretty well. So, you know, except for the bad people. Some people like me, some people don't. But anyways, so they picked me up in the van or whatever, you know, and then we go back, and it's like, it was 24 hours, you know, with like no sleep, you know, because, you know, I flew from San Diego to Virginia, layover in Virginia, then went to Italy, then I went from Italy over to, you know, the Gulf. It's just like long, you know. So anyways, I get there, you know, and it's like, don't even really get any rest, you know. It's like, you know, usually they'll give you rest, you know, and it's like, okay, they're going to have a meeting over here, you know, the chief, and this chief guy is the worst human being I've ever met in my life at that point in time. He's like an old, salty micromanager, yelling all the time, never been around that, you know, in the Navy, you know, even being in the Navy, in the military, I've never seen anybody like that. He looked like a dinosaur. Looked like he was about 60 years old. And he's all, you know, couldn't have been that old. He's probably in his 30s. Anyways, he was about ready to retire. he's in there yelling and everything, and I get a bloody nose. I'm like, I knew I made a mistake getting on that, volunteering for that detachment. So I'm like, excuse me. So I go over, you know, and I've always been a person that's pretty straightforward, you know. I mean, you give me respect, I'll give you respect, kind of thing. And so I go and I excuse myself, and I come back with I think a tissue or something, and he's yelling at the air crewman still and all this stuff, you know, and I'm just like, you know, laying my head back, you know, and I'm just like, God, I got to deal with this right before I get out of the Navy. So anyway. And then I find out that we're not going to Australia because the captain of the ship is another guy that's not a very good guy. He's been in 30 some years, I think. He was a full bird captain. So it's really high up above a commander. And so he wants to just drag out this last hoorah cruise, right? So he wants them to do a world cruise. He tells them, you know, like he's got, you know, he's just a big shot, right? So he's telling them he wants the world cruise, you know. I'm hearing all this stuff later. And the ship was not in there with a group like the carrier group. It was an independent. So when it's independent, well, when I got on there, when I was coming out of there, I think we were with the group, maybe with the carrier group. I'm not sure because I wasn't in the Gulf with them. But what they told me was he was such a hair trigger and such a nut job that he was around there on the north, what do they call it, the Northern Watch. So you're up there by more where all the action is, right? Up in the Gulf, up there by where Iraq and that area, you know, up in there. And he's got the missiles on the rails. You're not even supposed to be doing that, right? So he's not even following orders, you know. So they canked the Australian thing, right? So we're just taking the normal route back, which I've already been through there a couple times already, you know, been through there already. Thailand, you know, Philippines, you know, all that stuff. And so he's like, when he was on shore, he's rocking like he's on a ship because he's been to sea that much. And it was just odd. And he has this whole, what do you call it? You know, like these actresses or, you know, these musicians and his entourage. He has this entourage of people, you know, that are just following him around, you know, and when we hit a port, you know, nobody liked him. It's probably his bodyguards or something, I don't know, or, you know, he feels protected with them or whatever. But at any rate, he hated us so bad, you know, the air debt, that that's the only time that we never got to fly off the ship early, you know, like I'm talking hours early, you know, before it comes into the port, right? Because our squadron's out there, North Island. And so our squadron would fly out and pick us up on the other helicopters, right? You grab your stuff that you want to take with you. You'll come back to the ship later and get our supplies. But you take your personal belongings with you, you know, in your backpack, your CPAC thing, whatever. And so you get on the helicopter, and that's your reward, right? And then you have a big party. They'd have beer, champagne, all that stuff, and then your family members are there at the squadron. I mean, you know, this is back then. You wouldn't do that now. But anyways, no, he's not going to do that. And he outranked our commanding officer. The only time that's ever happened, and I'm on the ship. I'm on that detachment. So we have to ride the ship in, that's fine. But, you know, I mean, that's my last cruise, you know, and I would have liked to enjoyed the last part of it. So we had to ride the ship in or whatever. But that's something he did, pulled rank, just to push back on us. He didn't like us, the air debt. They think we get special privileges and stuff. But anyways, that was right before I got out of the Navy there.
Yeah, it sounds like you got into quite a bit.
That's interesting. I mean, some of the stuff, if nothing else, it's interesting. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but, you know, I don't know the significance of all this, but it's just a lot of stuff, I guess. When I started talking to you the first time, you're the one that I never even thought it was odd until I was talking to you, and you're thinking, well, you know, that's, you want to do an interview, you know, I mean, I didn't, you know, I thought maybe a lot of people in the military had my experience, you know, my experiences, but, you know.
I've talked to a lot of people that were in the military. Not many get brought into the drug aspect of things. I mean, I know it exists, but I think that was the first time that I heard that. Plus, you know, of course, your encounter with Grace also was relevant to what we usually discuss. You also have another aspect of your life that I think is interesting, is your connection to Colorado. And we've talked about Colorado as kind of a hot spot, you know, because of Cheyenne Mountain and that facility there, as well as the airport in Denver. So you were brought in there to, you were hired by a company. This is after.
No, actually, when I went there was back in 2010. You know, when they were having all the financial collapsing and, you know, people are getting laid off and all that stuff. I've always been in a leadership position for the most part when I got out of the military. Now, I'm not saying a manager or nothing like that. I'm not saying that. I was a lead and different things like that. This goes into, you know, when I got back out of the military, I was working in the wood mill, and I worked myself up from the floor up, you know, they recognized that I was a hard worker and things like that. Back in those days, that worked. And so, you know, I was like the hoist operator, and I did my job and all the, you know, stuff that usually somebody who's been there a long time does. But you know, the what do they call him? Not a lead. It was like a lead. He didn't work. He was like a supervisor. Anyways, he liked me, you know, and whatever. So he put me on there. And then there's another job that, you know, the wood comes from the sawmill, and I have to grade it kind of, and has lasers. And I mean, this wood is like thick and wide. It's from the sawmill, and you got to be pretty strong to do that kind of stuff anyways. And also you got to be able to grade the wood, because they give you a run sheet. This is what we need you to get out of this wood, right? And if you don't get it out of there, you know, they're going to be like, well, how come you didn't do it? And you do that often, then they're not going to let you do that job. And I was over a crew of people that ripped, you know, I was the rip sawyer. That's what they called it. I push buttons, and we had the lasers move in and out, and the boxes and the knots and everything. And you got to be thinking like that, you know, because you got to keep it running, right? They want the machine running. So it has a memory bank, and you just fill it up, you know, and then you try to do your other stuff that you might have to do, make sure everything's running right, you know, big old rollers, pushing, you know, mechanical stuff. And the guy's pulling the chain, you know, it's the hardest job in the business. And so they pulled the chain, you know, and there's 3 of them. I was over a heister driver, you know, I was over about 5 people. And we were always number one, you know, because I treated my people right, you know, treated them how I wanted to be. We would barbecue at my house. I didn't have a house at that time. I lived in a trailer that I was renting, you know. But we would all get together, and kind of like the military, I guess, you know. You just have a camaraderie. And so I was always in those kind of situations, you know. And after that, my manager was like, he went into the tooling room, which is where they do all the technical stuff for the knife grinding and all this different stuff that you might need to cut the wood and stuff, the technical aspect of it. And that's one of the best jobs, because you get the air conditioning in the summer. They'll put the air conditioning units in the windows. Otherwise, you know, you're out there in the heat, you know, it's terrible. It's got fans. But anyways, it's warm in the winter and all that stuff. So I went in there, I was on second shift, and I pretty much did my job, you know, and I did it pretty well. So they really didn't have to hire any more people, you know, really on second shift or whatever. And so around 2010, you know, everything was slowing down, actually a little before then or whatever, when I decided to leave, because I became the lead in there, right? The lead of the area I was in, profile grinding, you know, this, you know, the knives and stuff, kind of a technical thing. And then I run this other thing, EDM machine, on second. Well, anyways, they made me the lead on day shift, because they were downsizing. So they said, okay, well, we're going to put you on day shift. So, okay. Went to day shift. And so I was the lead over there, and there's like 1 or 2 people. And by the time it was all done, I was the lead and I was doing all the work. So I wasn't much of a lead. And they were going to lay off again. They already laid off 2/3 of the people, you know. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to go through this through the winter. So I told my wife, I said, you know, she supported me on it. And I said, I just want to get out of here. You know, I'm 40 years old. I got to do something different. If I'm going to do it, I got to do it now. I don't want to be like these other guys. They were laying off these old guys, been there like 25 years. Just lay them off, you know. So anyways, I went ahead and we flew out to Colorado, and I checked out that AMP school, which is working in aviation, which what I did when I was in the Navy. So related to aviation, it's a certification you get to work in the airlines. Make a short story, long story short. So anyways, we flew out there, looks pretty good. Okay, got everything signed up, you know, came back, and I was gonna, you know, we just put in my notice, you know, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, you know, how do we keep you around kind of thing, you know, but they never treated me like that before, you know, just didn't want to lose me, seemed like. So anyways, I resigned, and the guy that took over me, you know, said he knew it all, you know, and, you know, I was willing to train him, but he was a lazy person, didn't want to learn all of it. So then it just completely messed everything up, because I knew people that worked there I was still in communication with. And so, and I'm not boasting, I'm just saying, you know, I learned it. Nobody trained me. I had to just kind of figure it out, you know. And so, but I've always been willing to train other people. So anyways, they ended up hiring more people for that. You know, I was the one doing it, so they had to hire like 2 more people to do all this work, you know, because he couldn't do it. He ended up getting fired because he just couldn't do the job, and they were irritated. They wished I was still there, is what they, you know. I was contacted, you know, not by the management, but by friends that said, I'll talk to him, see if he wants to come. I'm not coming back there, you know. Anyways, that's how I ended up over there in Colorado. So Colorado, I was there. School was like 18 months. So I was there 2 years for the most. I was actually there about 3 years. So 2 years I was in there, graduated, you know, got whatever, my certification, all that stuff. And then it's the strange thing about that is I was fixing the helicopters and doing different things. So for whatever reason, they put me on, I guess because I had an AMP license, whatever, you know, a lot of those guys didn't have it. So they put me on the engines and stuff like that. They were Bell helicopters. And so a lot of people have a hard time being around those rotors turning, right? Underneath there, it's kind of sketchy around the engines. I never have a problem with that. So they put me on that. So they're running it up, and we're going around. I'm going around with this guy, you know, because he wants to make sure that I'm able to handle it or whatever, you know. We're looking for leaks and all these different things. And then later, I was only there about 3 months. I couldn't take it any longer, 4 months maybe. So anyways, there's a, what is it, uranium mine out there. And for whatever reason, we go out on this helicopter, right? The guy goes, okay, we got to check for leaks. John, you come over here. We're going to go and see what we got here. You know, so we're flying around. He goes, oh, over here, that's the uranium mine or something like that. I'm like, well, that's odd, you know, what? The uranium mine, you know, the water tastes like shit around there anyways, you know. But anyways, there's nothing around there, and there's some hole in the ground. You know, we're in a helicopter flying by there. But why does he even tell me that? You know, I don't, it's just odd. But anyway, so we ended up leaving out of there, and I got a job eventually down the road, you know, and they flew me down from Denver. There's a handful of us that the school set up for us to go down there for a job fair kind of thing, interview thing. So we went down there, flew us down there. We go in there, you know, and they do the interview, whatever, you know, and the guy that interviewed me, he was a hiring manager that used to be in the Navy, so we had something in common or whatever, you know. That's not the reason why they hired me. They have an idea they're going to hire you anyways before they just spend all that money on you. And then, you know, fly you down there, and then they're going to give you an offer letter. They just don't know how much, whatever.
Right.
So anyways, they gave me an offer letter. I thought it was pretty decent. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, all right, well, you go over here, you know, we got to get your drug screened. We got to do this and this and that. Well, the other guys up there in Colorado, a lot of them smoking marijuana. and all that stuff, right? You know, in the school, they're young guys, right?
Right.
Young kids, out in the military, whatever, you know, a lot of them. That's what I was going to say.
That's Colorado though too.
Later. Yeah,
That's the other.
What's that?
That's the environment in Colorado anyhow though, isn't it? It's kind of more relaxed in that way.
John Denver, Rocky Mountain High.
Rocky Mountain High.
But anyways, so yeah, you know, these guys, you know, they get out of the military and they want to go to a nice place and burn up their GI Bill, right? They don't really have any intentions on being in aviation, so they do that. And they, well, you know, they go up there and they enjoy the mountains and they have, you know, get high, whatever they do. But anyways, I think that had a factor in it because I recognized these guys from school, and even though I was already out. And so these guys, they didn't stick around, you know, they got on the plane and went back. I never seen any of them there. They didn't want anything to do with Texas, right? It's a combination of things probably. But at any rate, ended up the interview, you know, went well, whatever, I guess. And so they wanted me. I kind of jumped the gun there. Remember I was telling you about, I'll backtrack a little bit. This was the Predator drone. I've been in contact with this individual. Some of the people, they recruited him out of there when I was in A&P school in Colorado. So they recruited people. So I got in contact. They'd come to the school. They would talk to the veterans. They always wanted veterans. So anyways, I was talking to the individual, you know, about it, and I was interested in it. And he's like, okay, well, you know, you got to have your A&P. You got to get through the school, all that stuff. And I go, I'm not worried about that, you know. He goes, well, contact me when you get your A&P, right? So I go, okay. And it's a secret clearance you got to have, and it's down in California. And so it's working on the Predator drone. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was on that show. Matt Damon was in, but this guy that replaced him he's some kind of special agent. You know what I'm talking about?
What is it called?
Born Supremacy.
The
one with the new guy, whatever. And that Predator drone's in there. That drops the bomb or shoots off whatever, you know. He's in the winter time, wherever he's at. Anyway, so they're doing that stuff. So I go down there for the interview. This is before this is after I was in there at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. This is after that. So anyways, they call me up. They want me to come down for an interview. So I go, okay, I'll go down there. We fly down there and check out this place, you know, and it's from the air. It looks like it's just, you would have looks like a big hay field and stuff, you know, and they store the hay in these buildings, right? You know, and it's where they have those predators. But anyway, so we go in there, you know, and I have an interview. He shows me around, shows me the Predator, explains the different things, you know, what they do. They tear this thing down in 24 hours, put it in a C-130, and it goes anywhere in the world, you know, and then you put it back together. That's your job, right? And they put the engine in crates and different things like that. That's how they ship them. They put them in containers on a C-130. And they're not going to tell you where you go. You know, it's just not, it's a need to know, right? You don't want your family knowing about it or anything like that, which I don't know what that means. It could be completely harmless. I don't know what it is. But he said there's different areas that you could be in. You could be in the CIA. You could be in the FBI. You could be in working for the Army, you know, special project things, whatever, you know, it just depends on which one they put you in, right? And he's telling me that they're going to start putting these things on the Navy carriers, these drones. You know, he didn't say that they're going to replace, I don't think he said that. No, he wouldn't have said that. He said they're going to put them on the carriers, these drones. So later on, I thought about it, and I'm like, well, I was in the Navy, and he knows my service record, right? And they had all these young guys that I seen in there. I don't even know if they were ever in the military. It was putting these things together at that facility, right? And so, you know, why do they need a guy 40 years old, right? Why do they need a 40-year-old guy to work with these young guys? You know, you're probably gonna be very difficult, I would say. But anyways, they wanted me. they offered me a job and all this and that, but he was going into the Navy, putting stuff on the carrier and stuff. And I was thinking, well, maybe they figure since I've been on the ship, right, that maybe I would be a good.
You're trying to figure out why they chose you for this.
Yeah, I mean, I went through my mind, like, it was just such a weird interview. Because the guy was like what you see on the movies, or, you know, I wasn't in the Army or any of the other branches, so I could only speak for the Navy. He was a higher up when he retired out of there, this guy. And he was very direct, and he's trying to push your buttons to see, you know, if you can handle situations, I think, probably. So he was saying a lot of negative things about me and stuff, and he's just trying to see if he gets a reaction out of me, you know.
Right.
And I didn't say anything, you know. I just said, and the other guy is playing the good guy, right? He's the guy that recruited me. And he's like, no, he's great. You know, the guys that look up to him, no, John's got all this background and everything. And he goes, I don't think he's going to do that, right, with these guys. I don't think he's going to work out, right? That kind of stuff. And I know it's just in my mind, it's just a game they're playing, right? They're trying to see if I get riled up. It's just kind of what I perceived it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're trying to see if you're the right guy for the job.
There's a lot of that kind of thing that goes on.
And I just figure, you know,
see if they can get into your head.
I thought about it, and, you know, of course, he just got his blood drawn. I was telling you about, you know, that was recruiting me. He goes, yeah, I just got, you know, I got my vaccinated or something like that. I don't remember if he had blood drawn. They check your blood all the time, is what he was saying. You know, he's letting me know that, yeah, we're going to be, you know, this and this. If you're in here, they're going to be, I was thinking, you know, shooting you up with stuff, whatever. I'm already aware of this stuff, right? Chips and all that stuff. So I was like, you know, I had weird feelings. You know, something was telling me this ain't right. You know, no, this isn't the way. It ain't the route to go. So I just told them what they wanted to hear. Yeah, I'll think about it. This and that. I'll get back with you. You know, and so they also have a facility. You're probably familiar with that. It's a secret base outside of Salt Lake. So this goes into that. So anyways, I asked him, you know, so what am I going to be doing? You know, I need to know what the description is and all this stuff. You know, am I going to be in a tent, you know, out here in Afghanistan doing this kind of stuff? Am I going to be standing watch and stuff like this, you know? And he's like, yeah, possibly. I'm like, okay. You know, and I'm thinking, I'm too old to be doing that. You know, that's why they want these young guys, you know. So anyways, at any rate, they wanted me anyway. So he contacts me when I get back to Colorado, you know, that, yeah, we want to hire you. You know, you'll be like a secret clearance, and I can't remember what they call that. It's like while they're doing your background check. They call it something. I don't remember what it was. So they wanted me, and I'm like, you know what? I talked it over with my wife and stuff, and I'm just not gonna. And this was their HR department, it wasn't these individuals. And they go, oh, can I ask you why? You know, why are you gonna not want to take this job? Because everybody takes the job, I guess, right? And I said, well, it's just, you know, my age and everything. You know, I don't, you know, flying, not knowing where I'm going or whatever. You know, talking with my wife, it's not really something a 40-year-old guy should be doing, you know. And so she goes, well, how about you wouldn't fly anywhere, she'd just be there. I know that's a secret base, because I've seen research on it. And she wanted me to reconsider and go there. Why that is, I have no idea. They must have wanted me, right? I mean, that's all I can think of. Anyways, I just said no, because I'm probably going to end up getting trained down there. I go, where am I going to be doing the training? And she goes, oh, you'll be down there. I'm like, I'm not going to go back down there. I didn't like the way things went down there. And I said, I don't want to, it's just not for me. And so after that was it, you know, on that aspect of it. Then I went to, and of course, like I say, you know, Colorado, the school, sent me down there. So I had the interview, all this and this and this and that, and everything's a rush. You know, they don't want you to spend any time down here. They rented me a Mustang 5.0, which they do for everybody from that school, to come down, which you never have time to drive, to the hotel. I get there at night, right? I got to be there early in the morning for the interview. I didn't even get to drive the thing, but to the hotel, to the interview, and back to the freaking, get something to eat, and back to the freaking airport, you know, barely made it. And so anyways, it was just, that was a weird time too, you know, but anyways, they offered me the job. I took it, you know, and then flew back up to Colorado, and then it's just like it was over a month. They didn't even contact me, and I'm like, oh, well, I better start looking for a job because, you know, they didn't even contact me, and that's just how it works. And so they called me out of the blue. I'm looking for something else, you know, and they go, hey, can you be here next week? It's like Tuesday or Wednesday. I got to pack up all my stuff and be down there. I'm like, I can't.
They give you a week?
Yeah, and a week, you know, and I'm like, I got to have 2 weeks just to get everything loaded up and move down there, you know. I mean, I can't just be there. I probably should have just flown down and tried it out, stayed in the hotel and not moved everything, but I figured I bought into what they said, you know, you never get laid off, and then you do the research, they get laid off all the time, or they used to get laid off all the time. So I go down there 2012 and, you know, start work there or whatever. And then 4 months later, well, in January after the holiday, I'm laid off. They just used us because there was a strike that they had. So they used us to catch back up, but we still have our number. It's a union, so you still have your seniority number, your hiring date. If you come back and you in that period of time when you get recalled, you got a week to come contact them, come back, whatever. So anyways, I was out for 3.5 years, so, you know, I did whatever, you know, and I ended up back in Colorado, working for a year at a machine shop thing that was in Arvada. And just because we kind of liked it, you know, there, the mountains and stuff, figured I'm going to be out a while.
Colorado pulled you back.
Yeah, I guess so. Right next to the mountain. The Arvada's right at the foothills of the mountain there. Anyway, so I was there a year, and then I came back down here, and it was to Texas, you know, Fort Worth area, because I know it's getting close to getting recalled, and I better be close, you know, rather than far away to move, because you don't have a lot of time to get back. So I said, okay, well, we'll just go back. Told my wife, I think we just go back. I was in contact with some people, and they said, yeah, we're getting close, you know, they always say that. They want you to come back, you know. So I'm like, all right. So I get there to work, you know, and I'm like, these guys are like smiling at me and everything, because that's how they are. Just a bad place, you know. And I'm pretty strong, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. You know, I got into it with so many people there, you know, and told them, see that front gate out there? I live outside that gate. Just be aware of that. That's what I tell them. And so he kind of backed off a little bit, you know, on me. But anyways, I ended up going to second shift because this other Navy guy didn't like me because he was a reservist and I was full-time when I was in the Navy. So he had a chip on his shoulder, and I had an A&P, but he had his 4-year degree. And he had a problem with me, a big issue with me, kind of picking at me. So I made sure I went in there and, you know, didn't get even with him, but I made sure that I didn't like him when I come in there. And then they were trying to write me up for stupid stuff, trying to get rid of me. And I told him, I said, you'll never walk me out of this place. I'll leave on my own terms. That's what I told them. And so they're like, you know, really trying to get me. But I knew I was going to get recalled soon, so I didn't really care. So anyways, I'm going through that. And she didn't get hired, all this and that. I go, he finally, something stupid he writes me up for. And I said, oh, really? Is that what you're going to do? I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'm going to go to second shift. I'm requesting second shift. He goes, when do you want to go? Now, if not sooner. That's what I told him. So I'm really direct.
Yeah.
And so he goes, okay. And so they put me on second shift, you know. And I was happy. I didn't have all that BS I had to deal with. And actually, the supervisor on that shift was an ex-Air Force guy. I think he did 20 years. And he liked me. And he knew that what they were doing to me. So he had my back. They were still trying to get me when I was on second shift for stupid stuff. Yeah, just stupid stuff. That's what they do down here. And he knew it. And he goes, don't worry about it. I know what's going on. I got your back, which was good. This is comforting, that you have somebody on your, that has your back. So anyways, I ended up getting into it with this guy right before I was going to leave, because there's no secrets around there. They knew I was going to leave, so I think they wanted to fire me or something. It's like get their revenge on me. And this little guy that's kind of buff, lifted weights or whatever, he decided he was going to try to make a name for himself or something and stir shit up with me, right? So he come in there and he said something, and we bumped chests, and I said, I'll tell you what, you don't want to mess with me. I'm going to tell you that much right now. So I went into the bullshit mode, and I said, I've been trained to take care of guys like you in the military. Yeah. And I'm just, because I know it's my last day, and I don't want to have this guy ever crossing paths with me again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I want him to be looking in his rearview mirror, worried that I'm behind him, right? And we had words, and he calls me up, and he said, I go, I'll meet you anywhere you want. I don't really care. But I said, you're not going to like the ending of it. You're not going to be in a happy place. And I, and whether that's my subconscious thinking, I don't know. It just flows.
Yeah. It just came out. You're probably irritated by everything, and you just, you kind of needed a vent in some way. I understand.
Yeah, and I'm saying if I was, in some special program or what, you know what I mean, then maybe that's coming out or something, like a defense mechanism.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'll come up with stuff, and my younger brother, he took second in Taekwondo in the state of Idaho, and he only had like a year or two of training. He was like 19 years old, and he's an amazing athlete too. But what I'm saying is, he seen me. We got into a scuffle with some guys at a bar. That was just weird stuff happened there too. He's from Utah. This group of people that came to this local bar, and these guys were construction workers or something or whatever. They come in there, they got an attitude, they're just, you know what I mean, just bad people looking for trouble. And so me and my brother are there, and he took second in Taekwondo. This is after I got out of the Navy. And so I was pretty passive for the most part, but he's like, you gonna let that guy talk to you like that? I'm like, just triggered me, So the guy's over getting a hot dog at the hot dog stand, and it's the end of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. My brother's driving or whatever. And, I had been drinking, but I was never completely loaded, to where I can't function. And so I'm standing behind him. I wait for him to get his hot dog. And I said, I think you owe me an apology. And he goes, what? F you. All this. And he goes, see that van over there? And they were all in the van. There's like 4 or 5 guys in there. And he goes, they're going to be here, something like, those guys are going to be all over you by the time. And I said, I don't think they'll get here in time. That's what I told him. And he grabs my jacket. He's a tall guy, probably 6'2", 200 pounds, 200 plus pounds. I was only 165 pounds at that time. So he grabs my jacket, and I did like a hip toss thing. And my brother goes, I never seen anything like that. I'm not boasting. I'm just saying it's just like a reaction thing, right? And I hit him twice, and there's blood on the wall, and there's blood all over the concrete. And there's a cop around the corner. So here he comes over there, right? But let me back up. So these guys are piling out of the van. They are. And my brother's done Taekwondo. He was, master Taekwondo guy. So he's standing there, and he's just blasting them off this way and this way. And they never even got to me. I took the guy out 2 punches, and the cop gets there. Another guy finally gets to me, and he starts shit with me while the cop's there talking to me. So I slammed him down on the cop car, and I said, you don't want any of this. And so the cop breaks, what are you doing? Breaks us up, I ended up getting a battery charge because this guy, I didn't get arrested because I stopped, after all this. And so I have to go to court, and it's a woman judge, and she's probably been known to be like, not fair anyways. And she's a woman. So this guy writes a whole page that he was traumatized And he had to go to the emergency room. Nothing was wrong with him, but they're putting all this stuff together so that I get in trouble, and I got to pay restitution. So anyways, I go to court on that thing, and the judge is up there, the woman judge, and she goes, "You have anything to say? We got the letter here." She reads it off, and I go, "That's hogwash." I go, "That's not what happened." I said, he made an advancement in me. He grabbed my jacket. Okay, I protected myself. And she goes, "You can't beat somebody up just because they grab your jacket." And I go, "I was protecting myself."
That's as soon as they cross the line and they grab a hold of you, that's about it.
Well, I would think.
I mean, I do think it's a natural thing, but people that were in the programs, soldiers, mm-hmm. I think there's natural responses. I've done things too before that most people wouldn't believe, and I didn't even believe afterwards either. I'd be like, I can't believe I just did that, because you don't have any fear. You have absolutely no fear, and you have
go into that mode. You go into that
mode. It slips right in, and got me in trouble a couple times.
And sometimes I black out while I'm doing it.
It throws people off. They don't see it coming. They think that you're pretty much passive, easygoing, and then they happen to push that trigger, and then you're in a whole other space. I mean, I was living near the city. I probably looked like a target. It turned out I wasn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't have any stories that someone did something to me or whatever. I stood my ground, and I mean, I probably could have gotten hurt, but you don't. And so, that's the program.
Yeah, and she ended up, no sympathy for me, which, I thought was ridiculous, but I mean, that's just the way he wrote it up. And so I knew I was, whatever, I'll take whatever you're going to give me, and she goes, "Well, you should have done this and this and that." She went totally with this guy that wasn't even there by his letter that he wrote. And I said it was hogwash or something like that, probably irritated her. I knew right away she's not going to be on my side, so I'm screwed anyway. I didn't want to drag my brother into it because I've heard that when they got, credentials like that, they could dig back into it and they say, well, he's got he broke this guy's nose, he was a, black belt, whatever, they can get in trouble for that stuff, they side with them.
Yeah.
But so I kept him out of it, and I took the heat on it. It wasn't no big deal. I had to take an anger management class for a day, a Saturday, and then it was like $450 for his medical thing, and he was traumatized. Thank God he didn't have to do any. He didn't have to go see a therapist or anything. That would have been really expensive, but yeah, that happened. But that was kind of interesting. I mean, that whole thing, I didn't even know what was going on there. And then everybody at the bar that was there that knew me, they're just like, I guess some of them seen it, and it just happened so fast.
They don't see it coming. I mean, there are certain people that have a look about them and you think, oh, those people can really fight. And then there are those that are pretty hidden and they're underestimated and no one has any idea until they push the button. And
I'm probably one of those. Because I don't really look for trouble, but I mean, trouble seems to come my way sometimes, not always, but I'm pretty good with backing them off, or whatever,
There was something that you started bringing up about Texas, I think you told me, about that area being unusual and some unusual activity happening.
You mean like what has happened there? Is that what you're saying? Like, I've been told that the base is, this is from older generation. There's like generations that have been working there, and that whenever the Roswell thing happened, that they had stored all that stuff in Hangar 8. They call it Hangar 8. And whether that's true or not, I worked in there before. I never felt anything weird or anything, but people say there's all kinds of basement stuff, and there's stuff down under that ground. You know what I mean? What it is, I have no idea, but they talk about it. But
the old locals that worked there all agree that that's what happened.
Well, the one I've talked to more than a couple, probably 3 of them that have told me that, and they're old, and they're saying that their family told them that, whatever, their dad or whatever, back in those days, and they stored stuff that I don't know what they stored there. I don't think it would be the alien bodies, but maybe parts of the the UFOs or something maybe. So that's interesting. But what I was going to say too is, remember we talked about the psychics that I had talked to, and the one before I ever worked, she kept thinking like I was going to work there.
She told you.
It ended up happening. So she was from Sedona. So
I know that we talked earlier before this conversation. You had mentioned that because you had talked about being in Arizona and you were around the Navajo, and you said you discovered that you had some Native American lineage as well, right?
Yeah, that's like
the Pacific Coast, maybe.
Yeah, that wasn't there though. That's my grandmother. When I talked to my mother the other day, I knew we had it Canadian, but I didn't know exactly what Indian tribes or whatever. But my mother has a pretty good memory on that stuff. She said it was the Pacific Coastal Indians, Canada, so probably British Columbia, something around there, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, know some people from there.
Yeah, my grandma, she looks really, if you hadn't seen a picture of her, you would say, she looks, I don't have a picture of her, otherwise I'd show it to you, but I got it tacked away somewhere. But she looks like a Cherokee Indian kind of thing, you know what I mean? Got the long nose, kind of bent over like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of interesting, but it's on both sides of the family. I mean, I've seen pictures when I was in Colorado. I had family that been living there since the 70s or 80s probably, and it's on my dad's side. And they told me, and my dad would always say that no, we didn't have any Indian in us, but you go back there and you see the pictures and they're dark, dark skinned.
Yeah.
The women
No, they hid it. They hid it a lot, especially if you grew up in Idaho. It's very light, you can see there's a higher percentage. Your family lineage came up from that area. Yeah. They couldn't talk about it. Sometimes they would categorize them as if they were of African descent.
African, the Moors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched on that
because
recently.
they would saying that they were like slave lineage instead of native. It's strange. It's strange what happened, and so there's so many people with Native American lineage that they can't prove it because the records were really like people would hide it. They would hide who they were, whether they had a native lineage or not. And so, when I started getting involved with a lot of the tribal stuff, that I realized that people were trying to prove it constantly for acceptance. I had absolutely no connection to it physically, because my lineage was not native at all. It was more past life connection. But the people that did, maybe like a couple generations, the records were not kept up correctly from birth certificates. And so like I said, they hid it. So it was really, but they knew for a fact that they had relatives that were. And so, when they try to prove it to the tribes, my family belongs to this band or tribe, they would say there's not enough evidence for it. So for those people that, some of them really felt like they wanted to, reconnect or be a part of it. And so it was really hard to get the acceptance. And yeah, I had a few friends like that were really frustrated. Some of them would just even run off and just try to be around them, and do whatever they could. It's an interesting thing that happened in the nation, and there were some good things and some really bad things that happened. I mean, I'm hoping things will come around more in that area.
Yeah. In Idaho, we have Indians, and I've interacted with them. The Blackfeet is over on the, more around Pocatello, I guess, around that area, which is more closer to the Utah area. But anyways, we used to go to these jet boat races on the river.
Yeah.
And those were the Indians, there's a Nez Perce or something up around there, or whatever. It's on the river there. So they would come down, and I'd talk to them or whatever. I had a good conversation with some of them. Of course, this is after I was out of the military and everything. And everybody's drinking beer, and watching the jet boats go up and down through there, and it's real treacherous. They crash their boats. It's one of the worst ones that they have to go up the rivers because there's rocks. They have a navigator in the front. And they're going around like this, And if they don't navigate or doesn't see the rock, or they don't communicate well, they sink the boats. And those are expensive. And anyways, I was talking to these Indian guys, and we had a good conversation, and maybe they sensed I was a decent person, maybe not prejudiced or whatever. I don't know how that all works, but I can sense people too. But anyways, they were talking about the stick people, which I thought was odd. I didn't know anything about that. And they said, yeah, we have stick people that, it's what the reason why I'm bringing this up is you were married to a person that is half Indian or whatever, you were.
I was in a relationship. Yeah, I wasn't married, but yeah, he was.
Okay.
His mother was definitely from Cherokee descent. Yeah.
Okay. And these guys were really open. I don't see why they'd have any reason to lie, but they said, yeah, we can see the stick people, and they kind of, I guess they're like guardian angels or something like that. And that's just how they call them that, I guess. Makes sense.
Yeah. But I do believe that our past lives influence our physiological appearance at times. So sometimes you can actually find someone in a previous life that, or like, previous life, say, maybe 100 years ago or less, that, you almost look the same.
Yeah.
Kind of like what they do with those, like they call them time travelers, but sometimes that's who they are. But there's a part of your subconscious, your soul, or whatever, is a combination of many different experiences and lifetimes. And when you get to sometimes people will grow up in a certain home, and some people will look very much alike, and then there's others that look completely different. But they'll say, well, it was just the genetics that changes. But I think people literally change.
Yeah, I don't know how that goes from lifetime to lifetime, but I've seen where they say that somebody might have a wound or something, that they've got afflicted,
absolutely, yes.
And they'll have something like a birthmark, or they'll have whatever, or trouble with that area or something. Mm-hmm. One person had a sword that was jammed down in here on Gene Decode. I was watching question and answers.
Yeah, a lot of times, people don't say anything. You can actually see the wound, and I've often told people, I saw that there was, you got shot in this place, and then they say, oh, that explains something, and they'll say that they had an injury that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. So that's how it usually does. It manifests in different ways with birthmarks, and sometimes it's. I've heard of even like weird things where they have these vows or certain types of secret societies, and they actually get like a little imprint or something that comes up in their body when they come into this lifetime. Like,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, birthmark of some sort.
I was going to say, I used to rub my nose all the time here. And I asked my mother about that because I could have swore there was something put in there, and maybe an implant or something. I never had it checked out. Now I did have a, with the Duncan O'Finion, how he went into that CAT scan and it scrambled whatever, it burned it up or whatever that was the implant. But I did have a, they had me go in and have a CAT scan when I was young. Like I said, I was getting migraines, and went to the neurologist, and they had me do a CAT scan, and he came up with the theory or diagnosis, whatever you want to call it, that I was way too tense all the time. He goes, he's going to be a muscle-bound person if he keeps up with like this, because I was tense all the time, the muscles.
Yeah.
So he gave me exercises to relax the muscles around my brain, where you could say, you just go, I would do that. Every time I felt something coming on, and it would feel tight. But I never got migraines after that. I never had migraines. And I know psychics would ask me, do you get migraines? I say, no, I never get migraines. I don't know why they ask that. But they would. They ask that. And I've had other ones say that I was, a plantation owner at one time, in the whatever days, the plantation days somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about that, but what I do see is there's a metal bar around your head. And maybe that's why they think that there's migraines, and maybe they're picking up something obstructing your head.
A metal bar, what do you think that is?
It might be from like an MK Ultra or some kind of project that they did. You know how they have like a band going around your head. Yeah.
You seen that before then, or?
I just saw it now.
But I mean, you haven't seen that before on anybody?
Oh, I have. Oh, definitely. I've seen all different kinds of contraptions on people. It's crazy.
Is that what you think it is? Is MK Ultra stuff or cabal stuff?
Yeah, some kind of cabal stuff, or like you said, corporations that are trying to use you for agendas in some sort, and it could be regarding also time travel or secret space program. Like Total Recall. You remember Total Recall, and they have the other things around their head.
I just thought, putting all that together, that maybe that's what I was doing. Maybe I was down in the dumps because I was really tired. It seemed like I was exhausted. When they first started doing those, when 2019, whenever it was, up until about a year ago, I'm still kind of tired sometimes.
You might have been, working on with the kids. Because there was a lot of hybrid kids there, and Peter, the insider, he did a lot, and they rescued a bunch of kids from the dumps that were related to the Corporation Monarch and also the Umbrella Corporation. So they called them the Merge. Mm-hmm. They took those kids in, and some of them have amazing abilities because of the experimentations and things. They have kinetic abilities. They can levitate things. They can, some of them can actually alter time. It's just amazing. So they're, if I'm sure that they're very active, and many have been active in helping out. We're going to find out later how many people have been involved in this rescue of children. And rescue, helping the planet.
But it's just, I did watch The Sound of Freedom, and it was kind of weird. The last was, they just blocked out like the last 10 minutes or whatever of it, and everybody's like, "Where's the rest?" And it's like it just locked up.
I know they censored it, or
is that what it was?
I was seeing they're censoring. There were also quite a few theaters that it would be interrupted. They would say, we'll give you a ticket to go to another show. I've been watching the activity. And so they're trying to, minimize the whole thing. And people are like recording it in the theater saying, well, we're sorry. And, we'll give you your money back, but we can't watch the show, or you can't watch all of it, or there was an interruption of some sort. And they're like, what are you going to do? We don't want our money. We wanted to watch the show.
And that was the ending, too. I mean, I talked to somebody else that's seen it in another theater, and they said, you missed the best part. That's the real the actual footage of them going to that island,
of course,
and rescuing those kids. And it's like, I paid for that. So
they might actually air the whole thing eventually, through these like Netflix or something like that eventually.
Well, we sat around for about 10 minutes waiting on this thing, and it's just like it's stuck. Like they stopped it, and the page is not on anything. It's just gray. And I'm like, we're waiting for about 10 minutes, and we had stuff to do. In fact, that's that day that I was going to meet with you, on that Friday, last Friday, whatever it was. Anyway, so I was like kind of a bit in a rush, because I'm like, shoot, when I got caught in traffic, it's because waiting around for that, and it took forever for them to start the movie. It seemed like, and They just drug it out, you know.
They were doing it on purpose. You don't see them. Usually, you go to watch a movie. The movie is on time. It runs through, and then it ends. And then the next movie comes on. So all of this other stuff is not something that typically happens where, you know, they have people that are working there at the theater stopping and having an announcement. That just doesn't happen. I've gone to movie theaters all my life. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a typical way to behave, and they don't usually interfere.
And it was just, it was a small group, because that's why I wanted to go, because it was the first one of the day, and it's a matinee or whatever, and it's just usually less people, and it's a little cheaper, but that's not the reason why I went. I just didn't want a bunch of people in there, you know. I just wanted to, you know, go in there, and
yes,
the person next to me over there, you know, it's always, and I'm hard of hearing, you know, and this person's chomping on popcorn, you know. I'm like, yeah, you gotta be kidding.
But that's the fun of being in the theater, is all that crunching on the popcorn and the
I know, but
crazy
nobody
stuff.
else was doing
Those theaters where you lay back and you're kind of
here.
when you're.
Well, they're clear over here. They got these nice seats where we were at, you know. That
They got the lazy boy ones now, right? You just kick back and you get your legs up, and
they're clear over there on the. I mean, this guy, I'm hard of hearing, you know, and this guy's over there. I'm not saying he was purposely doing it. I'm just saying, you know, it's just like, yeah, it's dead quiet, and this guy's. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me.
And then the whispering, right? The really loud whispering, and you know,
it wasn't anybody even talking. They were just, you know, just the way he was. He's shaking the popcorn thing. It's like, my God, but you know, that's probably why they go at that time. You know, they want to be able to do what they want to do and not be bothered. You know.
Oh, they do it all the time. They're just, you can't go to a movie theater without having popcorn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we had a really good conversation, and we'll probably we'll maybe come back again and have another conversation. But for right now, I just want to say thank you for joining us today, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. You know, I mean, I just never thought I'd be on an interview or anything, and I didn't think any of my stuff was very special anyways. You know what I mean? I listened to these other stories, like, you know, Duncan O'Finian or whatever, and you know, those are pretty amazing stories. You know, but mine doesn't seem that, and you know, I don't really remember a lot of stuff. These are just events that I do remember. You know, there's probably more, but you know,
there is.
I suppose if I went and got hypnotized, but I don't think I really want to know anymore. You know, I think it's better that way.
Well, that's why sometimes some people don't want to know, but we know, you know, deep down inside that you're involved. But yeah, I mean, I guess that I felt the same thing. I was going to just talk to other people. I never thought anything I had to say was interesting. And then, you know, more information comes up, and you find that little niche of people that want to talk about what you're doing or what you're saying.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And I was thinking you were saying something about a headband, but maybe that was, you're talking about the MK Ultra thing at that time, maybe that you seen.
Yeah, it's kind of look up a Total Recall. Look up Total Recall, the movie.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. He was strapped in.
Yep.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco, and visit our website at www.readingsbyarael.com.